All right, so half the course is over here. We've done our midterm. We're on to chapter, what chapter we got? Chapter 10. Um, so I just want to go over this in my econ lab this week. There's just a quiz on chapter 10. So follow along with me. It should be easy to do. Just watch the wording of the question. May change differently than mine. But I'll give you unlimited time to do this, unlimited attempts to do this quiz. So this second part of the course, we're going over macroeconomics, again, generally looking at the overall economy instead of looking at individual industries. And this is what you should think about your paper topic for. Because next week we're going to have to pick out your topic, send me your first paragraph of your research paper so I can approve it, and then I will help anybody that wants help with their paper. But the thing with the paper you want to do is, use terms from the textbook. And if you choose like a topic like minimum wage, should minimum wage be raised nationally? Again, go to this chapter 10 and use some of the terms in chapter 10 in making your argument for or against. So again, the key thing with the research paper is just use the terms we've gone over in class correctly, and hopefully it should all work out well. But here, this quiz number 10 here for chapter 10, right? This first question, again, we're looking at chapter 10. What is the title of chapter 10? The labor market and the distribution of income. So again, if you do income inequality is a big hot topic nowadays. Are the rich getting too richer? Does that make sense? Are the rich taking too much of the resources of our economy compared to the middle or poor sections of our society? Should there be some government programs involved to try to distribute income better, more opportunity, like in student debt? Should we be helping you more with student debt? Is an interesting question and a good paper topic also. So again, this chapter can be useful in a lot of things for different papers. So here, looking at this labor and income equality. A profit-maximizing firm will hire a number of workers where, and again, this will be a good question to put on the final, because basically a profit-maximizing firm, the number of workers where, again, what is the cost for workers for an employer, basically, and that will be the wages. And again, here it's very similar, like marginal cost equals marginal revenue, right? So let's look for marginal revenue over here to the right. And notice we get two marginal revenues, profit or product. It's the marginal revenue of the product, because that's my whole total revenue, right? Not just, profit's just looking at the total revenue minus total cost. So that one there, let me check my answer. Yeah, very nice. Let me go to the next one. The logic of the income effect for leisure. And again, this is vacation time, and Americans work way much more than the rest of the world, which is interesting. So actually, this doesn't really make sense for a lot of American workers. This question, but let's treat it like they're rational people. The logic of the income effect for leisure. Again, basically, I desire leisure, right? But I need money to have leisure. There's a trade-off, as the chapter 10 talks about. A decrease in wages. I have less money to spend on my. Try this again. A decrease in wages will decrease my real income, right? Of course. Basically, I get a pay drop, which hopefully never happens. And again, if leisure is a normal good, of course, then I have less to spend on leisure time. It decreases my leisure time because of course, I've got to increase my labor time. It's a very logical thing, right? So decrease in wages, right, decreases my leisure time, and it increases my labor time. So let me check my answer here. Yeah, it's okay. It's kind of a silly question. That will not be on the final. Next. All right, if my objective is earned exactly $140 per week, right? No more, no less. If your wages decrease, so they go down from 10 to 7. This is a bad example. Nothing good happens here. Again, when you do this quiz, it may be the opposite, right? Your wages may go up. but the logic is the same. So I want to win 140. I want to earn $140 a week. So of course, if my wages decrease, I've got to work more instead of less hours. And then my supply curve, then you can actually, if you draw your supply curve out, going with the wages and on the y-axis, and on the x-axis you have your leisure time. I have a downward sloping if I graph this out. Let me check it. Fine, 100%. Next. An increase in demand for nurses. And again, this happens a lot with all kinds of professions. Basically, people see, they look from news reports or from people they know that basically there's a shortage of nurses and they're getting paid more money. So then basically more people will decide to become nurses. The opposite is true. That's happened recently with teachers, right? Teachers have, there's been a lot of teachers been fired, so a lot less people going into the teaching profession. So an increase in demand for nurses will, of course, increase the equilibrium wage, right? And then also increase the quantity of nursing services. So again, with every profession, right now, lawyers are taking it on the chin, right? A lot of lawyers can't get jobs, and their wages have gone down because there's an oversupply of the labor force for lawyers, and a lot less people are going into law school. They're having record lows, these law schools. Yeah, great, 100%. That's one thing. The fashion industry theoretically has done well in this recession, so hopefully it plays out well for you. Let's see, the minimum wage. And again, this is a good topic for a research paper. Should we raise minimum wage to $15 an hour like Bernie Sanders says? Or because if you do that, it is going to cost jobs. Because again, some workers will get laid off if the wages go up too much for different companies. How much is the big question? It's a very interesting economic research paper. So if it's a topic for you, think about it. So the minimum wage for a restaurant worker brings good news to the workers, right? The ones who keep their jobs, because some will lose their jobs. We all know that. And again, different research has looked into how many jobs would be lost if we raise the federal minimum wage to $15. But the bad news for workers, again, who lose their jobs, of course. And it could be, bad news as well for, and again, the government, who cares about the government? Employers, if they don't raise their prices, but generally what happens is they'll raise basically the restaurant owners will raise their prices for the diners. The diners are the ones that suffer on this one. So you and I who go to restaurants then will have to pay more and we'll have less income to spend on other things. So it's an interesting question about this. But again, most economists, not all by far, think that raising the minimum wage would be a good thing for the overall economy. But very debatable. Let's see. If a city has a relatively low crime rate, we would expect the wages for taxi drivers to be relatively low too. Because it's one of the, this is looking at a risk factor in a job, right? If you have a high crime rate, then taxi drivers, it's hard to get taxi drivers, so you have to pay them more. That'll be higher. Very logical. Nothing that difficult here with these questions. An important factor in growing inequality over the past 30 years is the technology change, and this is true, right? A lot of manufacturing jobs will never come back. As Donald Trump says he's going to bring back manufacturing in the United States. A lot of those jobs don't exist anymore because they're done by robots and assembly lines, right? So this has, let me do this again. An important factor in the growing inequality over the past 30 years is the technological change that has, right, increased, though, the demand for college graduates, right? Because you need somebody to basically control this technology. And then generally it will be a college graduate instead of someone that doesn't have a college graduate, right? and it is decreased, right? The demand for less educated workers. It's very difficult, if you graduate from high school and you don't go on to college, if you don't know it, a trade. A lot of trade people do very well. Steam fitters, auto mechanics, different jobs. But if you don't have a college education and don't have a great skill, it's very difficult to make ends meet. So that's why you go to college. One of the reasons. Yeah, okay, 100%. Next, I think this is the last one. Is it the last one? I think we'll see. Which is the one factor why college graduates earn a higher degree than only high school graduates? So let's take a look, right? College graduates are better entrepreneurs. No, that's not always the case, right? Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, they never graduated from college. College graduates need to pay off their student loans. Now, it does motivate some, but it's really not the big reason. College graduates signal to firms that they have required skills. It's basically, a lot of businesses want to have that check that you actually go through in the process of college and seen things through, and can get something done. It's like getting a union card for a lot of jobs, right? And again, more and more jobs will ask for a college graduate because there's so many more college graduates out there. College graduates are better communicators. Yeah, I know a lot of high school people that are very good communicators. Fine, let me check my answer. Yeah, I'm correct. Next, I think there's one more. Government spending and tax policies reduce poverty, and they have, right? This starts in the 1960s. Well, it starts before that, but it really takes off in the 1960s with Lyndon Baines Johnson, who's president after Kennedy gets assassinated, has his war on poverty. And, a lot higher Social Security nets, right? And the poverty rate was about, 20% then, and roughly gone, I think I got that right, we'll see, to about 10% now. And the interesting thing is it went down quickly from 20 to 10% and 11%, and it stayed that way for decades and decades, right? That other 10% is very difficult to change, right? Yeah, I got 100%. And that's an interesting research paper too. What do we do with poverty? Should we, again, reform welfare again, as we did in 1993, I believe it was, under Bill Clinton? Should we basically kick people off of the safety net if they don't get a job within a certain time? Be maybe more strict, lower their payments? There's an interesting article this week on that should not be the case. But anyway, I think I'm done. Yeah, now I'm done. So again, we're doing our macro part now. Again, this is all for this week, is just this particular quiz. Think about your research paper. I'm going to put I'll put a file in this week's folder for possible research paper topics that people have done in the past. So think about what interests you, and we'll talk about it on Monday. Email me if you have any questions. Have a nice weekend.